Ramin Asgard, who's a former US diplomat and joins us live from Dubai. Thanks so much for your time here on TRT World today. What is Iran's endgame here by increasing its uranium enrichment?
Thank you very much. It looks like what Iran is doing is it's continuing to ramp up whatever scaling back it can do in a public way on its commitments to the JCPOA. The next step, which they announced a deadline for, the deadline passed, and then they had to keep to the commitment, was injecting uranium hexafluoride into these centrifuges at Fordow. So they're continuing to rebuild gradually their nuclear program and put more pressure on the international community to respond.
But is this working, would you say, Ramin?
That's a very good question. Whether it's working or not, they really don't have many cards to play on this, other than kind of saying, through these actions where they're unraveling their commitment to the nuclear agreement, that basically they're speaking to the Europeans, that the Europeans were to put in a vehicle for allowing trade to go forward, despite the US pulling out of the agreement. And that's never really materialized. And the Iranians have not been able to get the Europeans to really budge on anything. And so, in a way, this is really their only mechanism to really voice their disapproval of the European intransigence here. So while it may not be working, they're continuing to try to ramp up the pressure, get the folks to concentrate on the fact that the agreement's unraveling, and see if they can get any response.
And from Iran's point of view, which is something we forget sometimes, would you say it does have the right to do this because it was the US that pulled out of their deal?
Yes, that's a very good point. The Iranians at this point feel that they've complied with the agreement. The Europeans feel that they've complied with the agreement. Obviously, the other signatories do. And the Iranians believe that because the IAEA is still observing them, and because they're doing this in a graduated way, and each time they announce why they're doing it, when they're doing it, and so on, that they're still acting within the rule of the agreement, within the four corners of the agreement. Unfortunately, when the US pulled out, the agreement really lost most of its capacity to be implemented. So the actions of the Iranians are kind of just hitting an empty space now. That said, what would bring the United States back to talking about a serious agreement with Iran? Well, it just doesn't seem to be Iran ramping up its nuclear program. There's going to have to be a different kind of approach that the Iranians are going to have to take, and that may have to be an approach where they open themselves up for dialogue, probably through President Macron in France, and really do something a little bit more courageous than this little tit-for-tat legal nicety of unraveling one little shred at a time their nuclear commitments. So it's going to take a little bit of courage. It's going to take a little bit of courage for them to do something that actually has an impact. And right now, they haven't really shown much of it.
Ramin Asgard, it's been really great to get your thoughts here on TRT World. Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.